What's up, y'all? Pro Baller back again with another video where today I'm going to be doing my 2024-2025 NFL playoff predictions. Now, the Lions, as you know, I'm a Lions fan. They've made the playoffs for the second straight year in a row, and they got the first seed. Now, all these playoff predictions, honestly, are going to have a little Lions bias in them, but I'm going to try my absolute best to be unbiased and give y'all the best predictions that I can. I'm sorry, I just hit my mic. But, hey, let's get into it. All right, so as y'all can see, I'm on Playoff Predictor, same site that I used last year. And this year, I have a feeling this is going to be a good playoffs, y'all. We got a lot of teams I did not expect, like the Commanders. Jaden Daniels has done phenomenal this year. I did not expect the Steelers also. I thought they were going to go into a little bit of a rebuild, but they have made it, and so did the Broncos, which is also very surprising to me. So shout out to all those teams. Honestly, they surpassed their expectations. But we're going to start with the AFC, and the first matchup we got is the Texans versus the Chargers. Now, this is going to be a very interesting matchup. Both teams have had their ups and downs. Justin Herbert's having a good year. I'll give him credit where it's due. I personally don't think he's top 5. I would say maybe top 10, but I would definitely not say top 5 quarterback in the league. But I do think that he is on a roll right now. I do think that they are going to get into a rhythm here, at least in this game. And then moving over to the Texans, Stroud has had a lot of struggles this year. I'm a huge fan of CJ Stroud, but with all the injuries they've had offensively and defensively, it's really hard for me to pick the Texans. Now, I'm not counting them out, I will say. Although I might go with the Chargers here, I'm not saying that the Texans couldn't win. I do think this is going to be a very close game. Both teams, like the Texans, yes, they made it last year, but they are having a lot of struggles this year. And then the Chargers have made it in the past, but they've lost some big games too in the playoffs. So with all that being said, I ultimately, sorry for Texans fans, I do think the Chargers are going to win. Now, I rarely pick the Chargers ever, like in the playoffs and my own predictions, but I do think that they're going to finally get their win here, and they're going to advance to the divisional round to play either the Ravens or the Steelers, which is the next matchup. Now, the Ravens and Steelers, two divisional rivals, this is probably like one of the best playoff matches that we're going to have. The Ravens have looked really good this year. Really, really, really good. Lamar, MVP candidate. I honestly think he should win it. Although I do think Josh Allen's having a phenomenal year. I think that Lamar simply with, like, it's just he's looked different this year. And honestly, I feel like if the Ravens did not have Lamar, they would not be doing as good as they're doing right now. I feel like that's honestly how it's been every time they've gotten into the playoffs. Now, I will say Lamar has struggled in the playoffs before. This game is going to be at Baltimore, which is huge for the Ravens. They absolutely needed that, especially considering it's a divisional match or rivalry with the Steelers. And then for the Steelers, they've also looked really good this year. They've had a lot of ups and sadly recently a lot of downs. They've been losing a lot of games, unfortunately, but they looked really good to start the year and then moving into midseason, and then towards the end of the season they sort of tapered off. And they've had a lot of issues. Now, Justin Fields is supposedly going to be getting more minutes. That's what Mike Tomlin said. He might be getting more minutes, which that's already a red flag for me. And it's honestly making me want to pick the Ravens. I will say the saving grace for Baltimore is that it's in Baltimore. If it was in Pittsburgh, I honestly might pick the Steelers here. But I do think I'm going to go ahead and pick the Ravens. The Steelers have looked really good during some parts of the year, but they've also struggled, especially recently. They've looked really poor and really bad. John Madden also said once that when you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterback at all. You need to have a certified leader on this team. You need to have someone whether it's Russ or Justin Fields, it has to be one of them. You can't have two different quarterbacks out there during the game, unless obviously one of them goes down. But if you have two quarterbacks that are fully healthy, you got to pick one of them. And I don't like what the Steelers are doing here. If that is true, if Mike Tomlin sticks to his word, So I do think ultimately the Ravens are going to win. And then to wrap up the AFC wild card round, we have the Bills and the Broncos. Now, if y'all know, very depressing moment for this channel was when the Lions lost to the Bills. I thought we might be able to knock them off, but we got cooked, and I raged during that stream. Flashback to that Editor Pro. Just let them score another touchdown. Let's go, Buffalo! Touchdown, Buffalo! Let's go, Buffalo! You know you make me wanna shout. Let's go, Buffalo! 2nd and 4. Handoff. First down and more. That honestly might even be a touchdown. Touchdown, Bills. Yeah, just let them score. Honestly, it's better that we just let them score so we can get the ball back. And yeah, that was a rough moment for as being a Lions fans. But I will say the Bills have looked really good this year. But so have the Broncos. Bo Nix has been on his game. Honestly, he has been the surprise of the year for me. A lot of people during the draft were saying, "Oh yeah, this dude's gonna be a bust. He's going to suck in the NFL." I've heard a lot of that. I heard a lot of that during the draft. And even like during the first couple weeks. But Bo Nix really has made a name for himself in this league just to start his career already. And honestly, the Broncos, I will say they have a very bright future under Bo Nix. And although I do think that the Broncos are going to put up a good fight here, ultimately, I can't pick against the Bills, and the reason why is I can't pick against the Bills because Josh Allen's an MVP candidate. They've looked fantastic all year, and it's in Buffalo. In a playoff game in Buffalo, you do not want to go to Buffalo. Some of the best fans in the NFL. And yeah, it's just, I don't know. I think for the Broncos, it's going to be a very rough game. And Bo Nix, it's going to be his first playoff game, and it's at Buffalo. I think it's not going to be a recipe for disaster, but I think it's going to cause a lot of troubles for him during that game. Now, moving on to the NFC. Now, this is where my conference is. I will say, I do know a lot about football, but I know more about the NFC than the AFC, obviously, because I'm a Lions fan. But we got the Rams and the Vikings as the first matchup. This one is going to be very good, y'all. If y'all saw the Lions beat the Vikings to get the 1 seed, and the Vikings looked really bad that game. I don't know what was going on with Darnold, especially a lot of passes out of the back of the end zone. And honestly, I will say the Vikings, they definitely could get back in their groove here in the playoffs, but they have to go against Matt Stafford. Now, I'm not the biggest Matt Stafford fan. I mean, I've never been really a fan of him. Which is crazy because a lot of Lions fans love Matt Stafford. But he still has Puka Nacua. He still has Cooper Kupp and Kyron Williams. 3 big players for that offense. Now, I will say, the Rams' defense, in my opinion, is kind of overrated. I don't think they're as good as many people say they are, especially their run defense. Their run defense is pretty poor. So I think, honestly, if the Vikings want to win this game, it's going to fall on Aaron Jones, and especially Darnold. If they do decide to pass it a lot, he's got to evade pressure, and he's got to be smarter with where he places the ball, because last game, he had a lot of open looks against the Lions with how poor our defense is because of the injuries. But I mean, I will say the Lions defense cooked during that game. Don't get it twisted, bro. They actually kind of cooked. But I will say on a few plays, the Lions did get bailed out by Sam Darnold, and he cannot be having that, especially going into LA against the Rams. So ultimately, the Vikings have looked really good this year. The Rams have had a lot of struggles, but they also, I feel like, are going to start getting into their rhythm. But I do not think it's going to be enough for the Rams. I think the Vikings are going to squeak away with a win here, and they're going to move on to the divisional round. But I do not think they're going to verse the Lions. So that either means one of these higher seeded teams are going to lose, and y'all will see here in a second with the Buccaneers versus the Commanders. Buccaneers have not looked great this year. I mean, they beat the Lions, I will say that, but they've also had a lot of bad games this year. Particularly their last game against the Saints. They almost lost to Spencer Rattler. And don't be like, oh, it was in garbage time, all this. No, this was a close game. Very close, almost all the way down to the end. And Baker was trying his best. and so were the Saints. They wanted to ruin the Buccaneers' playoff hopes, but ultimately it didn't matter. The Falcons lost, unfortunately for them, and even if the Bucs lost, the Falcons lost, so it wouldn't have mattered. But the Buccaneers have looked very up and down this year. Their defense has looked very up and down, especially like against the Lions. Like, they did pretty good against the Lions, but then other games they looked terrible. It's honestly the Buccaneers, and especially Baker Mayfield, they're very volatile. They're not very consistent. And then on the other hand, you got the Commanders, who they've looked really good this year. Jaden Daniels has done his thing. Honestly, I did think he would be better than Caleb Williams, but I did not expect him to be this good. He's a very, very fun player to watch. And the Commanders as a team are very fun to watch. Like, they don't have a bunch of star receivers. Like, yes, they have Terry McLaurin, but then they have De'Ami Brown out there. They have honestly a very like underdog type offense. Like, Jaden Daniels has led that team to the playoffs with not a ton of weapons except for obviously Terry McLaurin. And shout out to their defense too. The defense has had some ups and downs, but ultimately they've done their job for the most part. But Jaden Daniels has really led the Commanders to the playoffs this year. He has been the main reason, and I don't think the Bucs are going to be enough to stop the Commanders. I don't think so. I think, yes, it's going to be in Tampa Bay, but the Commanders have gone to opposing arenas before and knocked off teams. They've done what needs to be done to win those type of games, and the Buccaneers have been too up and down this year for me to pick them. So I'm going to go with the Commanders here, which sets them up, unless I pick the Eagles, or the Packers, to verse the Lions in the divisional round. All right, and then our last playoff game of the wild card is the Eagles versus the Packers. As y'all know, Lions fan, said it already earlier, but I do think that the Packers are in a very tough spot right now. Jordan Love got hurt, and Christian Watson is officially out for this game. And Jordan Love needs every player, every great receiver he can get in his receiving core. In a receiving core that's already not great to begin with. I don't think Romeo Doubs is great. Jaden Reed, yes, shout out MSU, but I don't think he's been that great in the NFL. He's had some good games, but he's also had some really, really bad games. And then Tucker Kraft Mac and Cheese.
You talking about
Tucker?
Talking about the mac and cheese crowd?
Yeah.
I don't know who that boy is, man. That boy, I mean, really, bro.
And why was he coming after you? I mean,
To be honest, man, people just talk crazy on the internet, but when they see me, they don't really do nothing, though. So,
he's also been he's been good this year. Don't get it wrong. He's probably been one of their top guys, but that's not really saying a lot when you consider the other people that are in the Packers offense. However, they also have Josh Jacobs, who's been phenomenal. I really did not expect him to be that great on the Packers, but he is blew out the expectations I had for him and exceeded them to the fullest potential. Let's just say that. And then on the other side, you got the Eagles, who are coming into the game with a couple injured players, with Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. And all those guys, obviously are key players. Like, the team could not. I mean, they operated with Kenny Pickett, but if they have him going into this game, they're not going to win. But I do think that Jalen Hurts will be playing in this game. I do think A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith will be playing, regardless, even if it's on a lower snap count or whatever. I do think they're going to be playing this game. And considering it's at Philadelphia, this is just honestly wrong place, wrong time for the Packers. I do think if they were playing a team like the Vikings or the Buccaneers, they definitely could win. But actually, they wouldn't play the Vikings because they're in the wild card. But let me rephrase it. If they're playing the Rams or the Buccaneers, I think they could win. They're going to have to go into Philadelphia, and unfortunately for them, I do think they're going to lose, which sets up a pretty interesting NFC divisional round, and same for the AFC, which we're going to move back to with the Ravens and Bills, which honestly, I don't know what it is with the Ravens matchups, but I do think that this also could be another fantastic matchup because you got two MVP candidates going against each other. And it's also going to be at Buffalo. So Lamar's really going to have to be on his A game in that game if this is how it goes. And then same thing with Josh Allen. Josh Allen has had his fair share of bad times and bad moments in the playoffs. He has never gone to the Super Bowl despite having multiple chances. And just, I mean, that whole Bills roster, I mean, has had a lot of issues, a lot of changes. With how playoff Lamar has been, I'm not 100% sure that I can pick them, especially considering how, like, Josh Allen is literally on his A game right now. Like, both of the quarterbacks both Josh Allen and Lamar are very good at what they do, and especially this season, they've been phenomenal. But I don't know. It's just Lamar carries that Baltimore offense. I mean, you do have Derrick Henry. You do have Derrick Henry on that offense, but, like, I don't know, dude. I don't think I can pick the Ravens here. I really do like the Ravens, and I think they have a really good shot at getting to the Super Bowl still in a lot of other brackets. I think, honestly, in the AFC, it's either them, the Bills, and then, I don't know, the Chiefs might make it just off some Bale bull crap. I'm going to get to the Chiefs here in a second, but I do think, unfortunately for the Ravens, I think the Bills will win. If it was at Baltimore, I think the Ravens might win, but I don't know. I think it's going to be a tough game for Lamar, and I think Josh Allen he's just better luck of the draw right here going. I mean, he's 2 home games in a row, and unless they verse the Chiefs, they're going to have another one against the Chargers. Now, let's get to that prediction where, bro, the Chiefs have looked terrible this year. Let me go full screen, bro, because I got to talk about this. The Chiefs have looked awful this year. Mahomes has looked awful. Travis Kelce has looked awful, but they keep winning. They are the most Mickey Mouse 1 seed. I don't know how they're even a 1 seed at this point. No offense to Chiefs fans. I'm sure even Chiefs fans can agree they don't deserve to be 15-2. They probably are more so like an 11-6 type team, or maybe 10-7, like a fringe wild card team. They don't deserve to be where they're at, in my opinion, but they've made it, and it's gonna be at Arrowhead, which Arrowhead is easily one of the toughest places to play in the NFL, so I really feel bad for Justin Herbert here. So, I don't know, bro. As bad as the Chiefs have been, I think they're going to get bailed once again here. And I can totally understand if someone picks the Chargers, but Andy Reid against Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh's been phenomenal in college, but Andy Reid has dominated in the NFL. But I don't think the Chiefs, let me just say this, y'all. I don't think the Chiefs are all that. I don't think, honestly, they are potential Super Bowl contenders because of the refs and all that stupid bull crap. But I think, unfortunately, the Chiefs are going to make it here. But I don't think, let me just say this, I don't think they are a quality playoff team. Now, moving on to the NFC, Commanders versus Lions. Now, I will say, it hurt me to pick the Commanders to win that wild card game because I know for a fact that Aaron Glenn is going to have a rough day. Now, Jane Daniels is a rookie. He's going to have a lot of mistakes probably this game, but he's also, I feel like, going to have a very good game because the Lions cannot defend scrambling quarterbacks whatsoever. I'll try to pop up a stat right now to even prove that point. Or multiple games where we've had to go against scrambling quarterbacks and struggled every single time. So I don't, and unfortunately, I don't trust the Lions defense coming into this game at all. I do not trust them. But I do think the offense is going to have a field day. I think this is probably going to be one of the most high-scoring games in the playoffs, and I do think that the Lions are going to pull this out. They've looked like one of the best teams, if not the best team, this whole year. So shout out to the Lions. I do think they are going to make it, and the Lions are going to go back to the conference ship where I have some PTSD from last year.
Right here, right now, to seal the game once and for all and beat the Chiefs at Las Vegas.
Well, how much time is left in the game?
I said 15 minutes.
Yeah! It ain't over!
Yeah, it ain't over yet. We got 15 minutes to
It ain't
settle.
over! I think I just broke my chain.
We came to fight, we came to win. Put up the fall, but never again.
Goff.
Come on, one more.
Almost intercepted, that's it.
Oh my, what is Campbell doing? Dang, they really choked. They really choked. Did he get it? Did he get it? Did he? Touchdown! Oh my gosh! Oh my god! Wait, oh my gosh! We're going to the Super Bowl! Super Bowl! Let's get it! 49ers! Oh, they really choked. My gosh, we're going to versus the Chiefs. It's going to be a rematch. Oh my god! Bang bang! Niner gang! Let's get it! Now, not to sound mean, but you remember back at the messages you and Adrian saying on how the Lions were going to win? All those memes you're sending. I believe I remember one time Mr. K.
Now, the next game we got is the Vikings versus the Eagles, which is going to be another fantastic matchup. The Vikings have had their fair share of good wins, same with the Eagles, but both teams have also had some bad losses, especially last week for the Vikings when they lost to my Detroit Lions. So, shout out to the Lions once again. You know, I got to plug the Lions, but I do think this will be one of the most fun matchups to watch. But I think this could be a low-scoring game, y'all. The Vikings defense, especially against the Lions, did really good in the first half. They did really good, and they held one of the best offenses, if not the best offense in the league, to 10 points. So they did their thing, and I think the same thing could happen here with the Eagles. Saquon could honestly have a bad game. I think he's due for one. I mean, he's done so good this year that I think it's almost unusual that he's not had a bad game in a while. So I do think that this will be a very close game, but I do think it'll be low scoring. But I think that the Vikings will barely squeak it out. Once again, with the Texans-Chargers, and this game too especially, I do think these games are going to be some of the closest in the whole playoffs. The Vikings, Eagles, Bills, Ravens, and then Texans, Chargers. I think those are going to be obviously, well, not obviously, but I do think they're going to be very close. And even the Ravens, Steelers, like a divisional matchup in the playoffs could always be a very fun and entertaining matchup. And then moving on to the conference chip, we have the Lions versus the Vikings and the Chiefs versus the Bills. Now we're going to once again start with the AFC, and there's my prediction. All right. Here, I'll explain it. Josh Allen has lost too many times against the Chiefs. And this year, if he wants to go to the Super Bowl, this is probably one of his few chances, because the Chiefs have looked once again awful this year. Kelsey, awful. And they're still switching up their wide receiver room. I don't know why they keep doing this. Every freaking season they keep switching up their receiving room. But they've done that once again. Mahomes has looked terrible. The defense is honestly, I mean, I'll say one of the bright spots for the Chiefs have been their defense. But I still think they honestly, it's not even that great of a defense. I think they get bailed out by the refs. They've gotten bailed out by the refs so much in the past, and this season has been probably their worst in terms of getting bailed out. So, and then they're going against Josh Allen, who's an MVP candidate, and yes, it's in Arrowhead, but I think Josh Allen is finally going to overcome the Chiefs and go to his first Super Bowl in his career. Now, moving on to the Vikings-Lions. This is going to be at Ford Field, and this would be a scary game for me as a fan because it's a divisional team. But I don't know, bro. I think the Vikings, I think they have a lot of talent, especially with Justin Jefferson. And I could see them getting the best of us here. I really honestly don't want to verse them at all in the playoffs. But I think the Lions are going to be just as fired up. You got to remember, the Lions went to San Francisco. We're looking like they're going to go to the Super Bowl with a 17-point lead against the 49ers at half, and then they choked it. So, I don't know. I don't think the Lions are going to choke it again. I don't think they're going to choke it again. I don't even think they're going to. I think, honestly, this could be a blowout. I think it's either going to be a blowout or a game that goes literally down to the last snap. I think it's going to be maybe a game-winning field goal type game, something like that. It's going to be one or the other. It's going to be a complete blowout or an extremely close game. But ultimately, I think the Lions are going to overcome the adversity they've had all year. And once again, y'all, the Lions are going to get... Actually, I didn't even say this. Sorry, not once again. The Lions are going to get Carlton Davis back in this divisional round, and they might get Hutch back for this game. I'm not sure about Derek Barnes and all them, but David Montgomery's also going to be back for the divisional round. So the Lions, they're set up for like success right now. They got the 1 seed, which was very needed. Honestly, I will say this. I said this in my live streams. If y'all haven't tuned into those, but I do think that the Lions, if they had lost that game against the Vikings for the 5th seed, I think they would not have gone to the Super Bowl. They would have had to versus the Rams, which would have been a tough matchup for them considering the whole Stafford rivalry thing going. And then they would have had to either play the Vikings again or the Eagles, which I would not want to verse either of those teams right now. But thankfully, the Lions pulled it off and got that 1 seed. But I think the Lions are really set up for success here. So I do think that the Lions are going to play the Bills in the Super Bowl. And I think this could be one of the craziest Super Bowls ever. You have 2 teams. One of them, the Bills, I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering correctly, lost 4 Super Bowls in a row. 4. And the Lions have never made it to a Super Bowl. This is literally the underdog Super Bowl. This is a Super Bowl that you would never expect. And honestly, either team that wins is going to be happy. I mean, and even as a Lions fan, honestly, I'm not a huge fan of the Bills. But I would be happy if they won it over a team like the Chiefs or a team like, I don't know. Let's go back to the bracket here. I'd be happy if they won it over the Broncos because the Broncos have already won one back with Peyton Manning. I'd like to see the Steelers win one, but I don't think they're going to get that far. The Bills, they beat the Lions earlier this year, but at the same time, the Lions, they could have Hutch back. They're going to have a lot of the guys that they didn't have back. They're going to have an even better offense, a team that is hungry, that wants to win it all. The Lions, I will say, going into that Bills game, they had a lot of rough games before that. So I do think that the Lions are going to be up for this game, considering it's literally the Super Bowl. I think they're going to be up, but so are the Bills. That's not to take anything away from the Bills. The Bills are going to be ready for this game too. Josh Allen's probably going to have one of his best games here, and they're going to be ready. But honestly, bro, I could honestly see this game going into overtime. I could see this being a high-scoring matchup. But ultimately, and once again, I'm not trying to show any bias, but it's just proven true this whole year that the Lions have looked like the best team in the NFL. And I think that the Lions will get their first ever Super Bowl win. I think it's destiny at this point, bro. Like the Lions, they've had so many hardships. All the times the refs screwed them over. All the times they've lost in big moments. But this is a brand new team. This has been a brand new team for years, 2 years. And I believe in my Lions, as Decatur would say with the Niners. I believe in my Lions. They're going to win the Super Bowl.
No, they ain't repeating Super Bowl 54. I believe in my Niners. They're going to win the Super Bowl.
I said this back against, I think it was the Jaguars or the Titans, Colts, one of those games. I said they were going to win it. They're going to win it. The Lions, they're that team this year. No offense to the Bills, but I do think that the Lions are simply the better team. They got the best of us in the regular season, but I see the Lions getting the best of them when it matters most and winning the Super Bowl. So once again, here's my full bracket. Actually, that's not my full bracket. Here's my full bracket. That's my full bracket. I hope y'all enjoyed, and I'll see y'all later. Peace out.